The sound of Derek Palmer's entitled laughter cut through the quiet hum of our private banking floor like a knife through silk. I stood frozen behind my desk, watching him wave a crumpled statement in Mr. Brennan's face. A $75 late fee. Are you joking? My family has banked here for 3 generations. I want this reversed immediately, and I want an apology from this incompetent teller for wasting my time. Heat crawled up my neck as every eye in the lobby turned toward us. Mr. Brennan, my boss, looked like a cornered animal. He was already nodding, already capitulating before Derek even finished his sentence. I had not made a mistake. The fee was legitimate, triggered by Derek's habit of scheduling wire transfers 5 minutes before closing time. But I could see the decision in Brennan's eyes. The Hayes account was worth millions. I was worth a salary. I forced my professional smile into place, the one I had perfected over 8 years at Riverside National Bank. Mr. Palmer, I've reversed the fee as requested. However, in the future, please submit transfer requests before our 3 p.m. cutoff to avoid similar charges. Derek leaned across my desk, his expensive cologne suffocating the air between us. His voice dropped to a whisper that everyone could still hear. Good girl. Now maybe next time you'll remember your place. You're just a glorified secretary, sweetheart. Don't pretend you understand how real money works. The words landed like physical blows. My smile never wavered, but something inside me cracked clean through. Not my confidence, my patience. I had spent 8 years mastering every regulation, every loophole, every procedural requirement in this bank. Derek Palmer had just made the worst mistake of his privileged life. The moment Mr. Brennan escorted Derek toward his office with apologetic murmurs, I walked calmly to the employee restroom. I locked the door and stared at my reflection in the mirror. Dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Navy blazer without a single wrinkle. Eyes that suddenly looked much older than my 32 years. I pressed my palms against the cool marble counter and took 3 deep breaths, the kind that make your ribs ache. Then I made myself a promise. Derek Palmer would lose everything, and I would be the architect of his downfall. My name is Amanda Cross, and for 8 years I had been the invisible backbone of this branch. Now I was going to become its most dangerous weapon. Nobody calls me a secretary and walks away unscathed. The humiliation was not new. It was just the final straw in a long line of broken promises. 11 months ago, I had turned down an offer from Pacific Trust Bank, our biggest competitor. They had offered me a senior analyst position with a corner office and a $35,000 raise. I stayed because Mr. Brennan promised me the assistant manager role when Victoria retired. He shook my hand in his office and told me I had earned it. Then Derek's father, William Palmer, made a phone call. The Palmer family held $8 million in various accounts at our branch. William wanted his nephew, Kyle, given the assistant manager position instead. Kyle had a business degree and 6 months of banking experience. I had 8 years and a flawless record. Mr. Brennan gave Kyle the job without even telling me in person. I found out through an email memo. That evening, Mr. Brennan called me into his office. He could not look me in the eye as he slid a transfer letter across his desk. Amanda, I need you to understand. The Palmer situation today was unfortunate. To maintain our relationship with the family, we need to make an adjustment. Effective Monday, you'll be moving to senior account services. It's a lateral move technically, but we really need your expertise on the customer-facing side. Senior account services was not lateral. It was a demotion disguised in corporate language. I would be sitting at a desk processing paperwork while Kyle occupied my office. Mr. Brennan pushed a severance package toward me, guilt money to ease his conscience. I did not touch it. Instead, I looked him straight in the eye and said, "I'll take the transfer, Mr. Brennan. No severance needed. I'm staying." His relief was immediate and pathetic. He had no idea what I was planning. Monday morning, I arrived at my new desk in the back corner of the branch, near the secure file cabinets and the document processing station. I wore gray instead of my usual navy, blending into the background like wallpaper. My new position was everything Derek had wanted for me. Invisible, powerless, tucked away from important clients. Except Derek had made one critical miscalculation. Senior Account Services had access to account files for quality assurance and compliance verification. My proximity to the secure filing system meant I could review any account in the branch as long as I had a legitimate procedural reason. Derek saw me at my new desk during his afternoon visit. He flashed a triumphant smirk, the kind that said he had won. I smiled back politely, my face a mask of professional courtesy. He had no idea he had just handed me the keys to his entire financial life. The hunt had begun. Phase 1 was information gathering. I spent the first week settling into my new role, learning the rhythms of the paperwork flow, earning the trust of the compliance team. Nobody suspected anything because I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do, reviewing accounts for errors and regulatory compliance. The Palmer family maintained 7 different accounts at our branch. The senior accounts, managed by Derek's father and uncle, were pristine. But Derek's personal accounts were a different story altogether. He had 3 accounts under his name. 1 standard checking account, 1 high-yield savings account, and 1 business account for Palmer Ventures LLC, his personal investment company. That 3rd account was where things got interesting. Very interesting. I pulled the file and started reading. The more I read, the wider my smile became. Derek was not just reckless. He was sloppy. Palmer Ventures LLC was Derek's attempt to prove himself to his family. He had started the investment fund 2 years ago with a $500,000 loan from his father, secured against a line of credit from our bank. The account showed consistent activity, dozens of trades per week. Derek fancied himself a day trader, buying and selling stocks with aggressive frequency. The monthly statements revealed a pattern of high-risk, high-volume trading with wildly inconsistent returns. Some months showed gains of $30,000. Other months showed losses of $50,000. The net result over 2 years was barely break-even, and that was before accounting for the trading fees. Derek was gambling, not investing, and he was doing it with borrowed money. This was the crack in his armor I needed. I just had to find the right pressure point to make the entire structure collapse. I dug deeper into the transaction logs, cross-referencing timestamps with our internal procedural requirements. That was when I found it. A beautiful, glaring vulnerability. Derek executed most of his large trades between 2:55 p.m. and 3:05 p.m., right around our cutoff time for same-day processing. Transactions submitted after 3 p.m. were processed the next business day and triggered an expedited processing fee if the client requested same-day execution anyway. This was the source of his chronic late fees. But there was something else. Several large transfers, the kind that moved $100,000 or more, were being authorized through digital signature only. Our bank policy required dual authorization for transactions over $50,000 from a secured line of credit. Digital signature plus a secondary manual verification from a branch supervisor. Derek had been bypassing the manual verification for months, using an outdated digital waiver from an old system migration that nobody had bothered to update. I did not report the violation immediately. That would have been too obvious, too aggressive. Instead, I printed out the old compliance memo regarding manual verification requirements for secured credit transactions. It was buried deep in our procedural archives, a dusty relic from 5 years ago that nobody remembered existed. The memo clearly stated that any transaction over $50,000 from a secured line of credit required both digital authorization and physical signature verification from a supervising officer. Derek had been violating this requirement for 18 months. I made 3 copies of the memo. One for my records, one for the compliance file, and one that I would strategically place where it would cause the most damage. Then I opened our account management system and began the first move in my chess game. I flagged Palmer Ventures LLC with a standard account security review alert. The flag was innocuous, the kind of routine security measure that gets applied to dozens of accounts every month. It meant that any transaction over $25,000 would require supervisor approval before processing. The system would automatically pause the transaction and send an authorization request to Mr. Brennan's desk. It was not punitive. It was just protocol. Derek came in the next day needing to execute a time-sensitive trade. He swiped his card at the automated terminal, entered his transaction, and hit submit. The screen froze, displaying a message in red text. Transaction pending. Supervisor authorization required. I watched from my corner desk as Derek's face turned purple. He stormed over to Mr. Brennan's office, but Mr. Brennan was in a meeting with corporate representatives. Derek was stuck. His trade window was closing. He came to my desk, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Remove this flag immediately." Kept my voice calm and helpful. "I'm sorry, Mr. Palmer, but I don't have the authority to remove security flags. That requires Mr. Brennan's override code. It's part of our updated security protocol for high-value accounts. I'm sure he'll be available within the hour." Derek's jaw clenched. "This is ridiculous. I need to execute this trade now." I gave him my most sympathetic smile. "I understand your frustration, sir. Unfortunately, security protocols exist to protect our clients from potential fraud. I'm sure Mr. Brennan will clear this up as soon as his meeting ends." The meeting lasted 90 minutes. Derek's trade window closed after 40. By the time Mr. Brennan entered his override code, the stock price had moved against Derek's position. He lost $2,200 on that single missed opportunity. Derek left the branch without another word, but I could see the rage simmering beneath his expensive suit. He had no idea this was just the beginning. The real trap was still waiting to spring. Derek returned 3 days later. His confidence restored, probably after complaining to his father about the security flag incident. He approached the terminal cautiously this time, clearly expecting another delay. But the security flag was gone. Mr. Brennan had removed it after Derek's father made an irritated phone call about excessive security measures interfering with legitimate business. Derek submitted his transaction, and the system processed it immediately. Except this time something different happened. The system printed out a single sheet of paper from the document printer beside the terminal. Derek stared at it, confused. "What is this?" I walked over with my helpful smile firmly in place. "Oh, that's the manual authorization form for secured credit transactions over $50,000, Mr. Palmer. It's required by our compliance department. Just standard procedure." Derek looked at the form like it was written in a foreign language. "I've never had to fill this out before." I maintained my pleasant, neutral tone. "The requirement was reinstated last week as part of a routine compliance audit. It's actually been in our procedural manual for years, but enforcement had been inconsistent. The audit team flagged it, so now we're implementing it properly across all accounts." This was not entirely a lie. The requirement did exist. I had just personally ensured that the audit team became aware of it by submitting an anonymous compliance concern through our internal reporting system. Derek grabbed the form and scanned it quickly. It required 3 signatures. His signature as account holder, Kyle's signature as assistant manager, and a notarized internal witness signature from the compliance department. "This is going to take hours," Derek protested. I nodded sympathetically. "I know it's inconvenient, sir, but it's for your protection. These requirements exist to prevent unauthorized access to secured credit lines." Derek had no choice but to comply. Kyle was in the building, so that signature came quickly. But the compliance notary was only available between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., and it was already 2:30. Derek's trade was delayed by 18 hours. The market moved overnight, and his position lost another $3,400 by the time the form was fully processed and his transaction cleared. I watched him submit the completed form the next morning, his hands shaking with suppressed fury. He knew something was wrong. He just could not figure out what. The beauty of my strategy was its perfect legitimacy. Every single step I had taken was supported by actual bank policy. I had not invented rules or sabotaged his account through malicious action. I had simply enforced regulations that everyone else was too lazy or too intimidated to apply to a wealthy client. Derek's father could complain about inconvenience, but he could not accuse the bank of wrongdoing. We were protecting his son's account. Over the next 2 weeks, Derek had to fill out that manual authorization form 6 more times. Each delay cost him money as market opportunities slipped away during the processing windows. While Derek struggled with paperwork delays, I moved to phase 2 of my plan. I drafted an email to our internal compliance department, carefully worded to sound like a concerned employee raising legitimate questions. Subject: Request for guidance on high-frequency trading activity in secured credit accounts. The email detailed my observations of Palmer Ventures LLC without naming Derek specifically. I noted the high volume of transactions, the pattern of last-minute submissions, the historical bypassing of manual authorization requirements, and the significant volatility in the account balance. I framed everything as a question. Given the bank's fiduciary responsibility to ensure client accounts are managed safely, should accounts exhibiting this pattern be subject to additional oversight? I did not demand action. I did not make accusations. I simply asked questions and provided documentation. The compliance department loved employees who asked questions. It meant they were being proactive about risk management. My email was forwarded to the regional compliance officer within 2 hours. 4 days later, 2 compliance auditors arrived at our branch unannounced. They went straight to Mr. Brennan's office and closed the door. I watched from my desk, pretending to process paperwork while my heart pounded with anticipation. The meeting lasted 3 hours. When the auditors emerged, they walked directly past Mr. Brennan and came to my desk. Ms. Cross, we appreciate you bringing the secured credit oversight question to our attention. We need copies of all manual authorization forms and transaction logs for Palmer Ventures LLC for the past 24 months. I provided everything they requested with calm efficiency. Mr. Brennan watched from his office doorway, his face pale with understanding. He knew exactly who had triggered this audit. But he could not say anything because I had followed proper channels. I had done everything correctly. The auditors spent 2 more days at our branch, reviewing files and interviewing staff. Derek walked in during their second day, laughing on his phone, completely oblivious to the investigation happening 15 feet away. The auditors did not find criminal activity. Derek had not committed fraud or embezzlement. But they found something almost as damaging from the bank's perspective: massive uncontrolled risk. Their report, which I later obtained through my compliance contacts, outlined serious concerns about Palmer Ventures LLC's trading strategy. The account showed characteristics of gambling rather than investing, with over-leveraged positions and insufficient risk management protocols. The report did not recommend criminal charges. It recommended immediate risk mitigation. Specifically, it mandated a 50% reduction in Palmer Ventures LLC's secured line of credit, effective immediately. This was the nuclear bomb I had been building toward. Derek's investment fund operated on leverage. He borrowed money from the bank to make larger trades than his actual capital would allow. Cutting his credit line in half would not just limit his future trades. It would trigger immediate consequences for his current positions. And those consequences arrived within hours. The credit reduction hit Derek's account at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. By 9:45 a.m., the automated risk management system at our bank detected something catastrophic. Derek had several large short positions open, betting that certain stocks would decline in value. Those positions required maintaining a specific amount of collateral in his account. When his credit line was cut, his available collateral dropped below the required threshold. The system generated an automatic margin call, demanding that Derek immediately deposit enough cash to cover the collateral shortage. The margin call amount was $340,000. Derek had 72 hours to provide the funds, or his positions would be automatically liquidated at whatever the current market price was, locking in his losses. The margin call notification was sent to both Derek and to the primary guarantor on the secured credit line. That guarantor was Derek's father, William Palmer. For the first time, William would see the complete, unvarnished truth about his son's reckless trading habits. Derek rushed into the branch at 11 a.m. His usual arrogance replaced by barely concealed panic. He demanded to see Mr. Brennan immediately. Their meeting lasted 20 minutes, and I could hear Derek's raised voice through the closed door. He emerged looking shaken and headed straight for the transaction terminal, presumably to transfer money to cover the margin call. But the manual authorization requirement was still in effect. His emergency transfer required the same 3 signatures and notary approval as every other large transaction. Kyle was available. The notary was available. But the compliance department had added one more requirement after the audit. Any transaction intended to cover a margin call now required an additional review from the regional compliance officer to ensure the bank was not inadvertently enabling continued risky behavior. That review took 48 hours minimum. Derek's 72-hour window was rapidly closing. He could not move his money fast enough. William Palmer arrived at the branch on Thursday morning, accompanied by the family's personal attorney. His face was carved from stone as he walked past the main floor and directly into Mr. Brennan's office without knocking. I did not need to hear the conversation to know what was happening. William had received the margin call notification. He had reviewed Derek's trading history for the first time. He had seen the losses, the reckless positions, the gambling mentality disguised as investing. And he was furious. Kyle appeared at my desk 30 minutes later, looking ashen. Amanda, Mr. Brennan needs copies of every transaction log for Palmer Ventures LLC going back 2 years. Can you pull those files? I had them ready within 10 minutes. As I handed the stack to Kyle, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. Every page in that stack was documentation of Derek's incompetence and the bank's patient, procedural response to it. There was nothing irregular about our actions. We had followed every rule. Derek had not. The margin call deadline passed on Friday at 4 p.m. Derek had not been able to move sufficient funds in time because of the compliance delays I had engineered through legitimate policy enforcement. The automated system liquidated his positions at current market prices. The losses totaled $287,000. Combined with his existing debt on the secured credit line, Derek's investment fund was completely insolvent. Palmer Ventures LLC had a negative balance of $156,000. William Palmer covered the debt to protect the family's reputation, but the cost was Derek's complete removal from any financial decision-making role in the family business. The Palmer accounts remained at Riverside National Bank, but Derek's name was removed from all of them. His father formally dissolved Palmer Ventures LLC and revoked Derek's access to family funds beyond a basic living allowance. Derek had been financially grounded like a teenager caught joyriding. The public humiliation he had inflicted on me had been returned 100-fold, and it was entirely his own fault. The following Monday, my personal phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Ms. Cross, this is Patricia Hughes from Pacific Trust Bank. We spoke about a year ago regarding a senior analyst position. I recently reviewed the compliance audit report from Riverside National Bank. Your handling of that situation was textbook perfect. You identified risk, followed proper channels, and protected the institution without overstepping your authority. That level of professional judgment is exactly what we need. We would like to offer you the position of Vice President of Client Risk Management. Corner office, $95,000 salary, full benefits, and a signing bonus. Are you interested? I did not hesitate. Yes, Ms. Hughes. I'm very interested. We finalized the details over the next 2 days. When I submitted my resignation to Mr. Brennan on Wednesday, he looked like I had punched him in the stomach. Amanda, please. We can work something out. I can give you the assistant manager position now. Kyle is being transferred to another branch. I smiled at Mr. Brennan, a real smile this time, full of genuine satisfaction. Thank you for the offer, but I've accepted a vice president role at Pacific Trust. I'm afraid I've outgrown my position here. I gave 2 weeks' notice as a professional courtesy, But my heart was already gone from Riverside National Bank. On my final day, as I was clearing out my desk, I saw Derek Palmer one last time. He was not wearing his usual designer suit. He was in casual clothes, looking diminished and defeated as he waited in the lobby to meet with someone from our loan restructuring department. His father was making him clean up the remaining financial mess personally. Derek saw me carrying my box of belongings toward the exit. Our eyes met across the marble floor. He knew. I could see it in his face. He understood that every procedural delay, every compliance requirement, every perfectly legitimate obstacle had been orchestrated by the woman he had called an incompetent secretary. But he could not prove anything because I had never broken a single rule. My name is Amanda Cross, and I am a vice president. My new office has floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the downtown financial district. My job is challenging, respected, and compensated appropriately for my expertise. The lesson I learned from my time at Riverside National Bank is simple. Never mistake quietness for weakness. Never assume the person you underestimate is not keeping score. Derek Palmer tried to humiliate me into invisibility. He succeeded only in giving me the motivation to master every rule, every regulation, every procedural requirement in the banking industry. His arrogance became the rope he hanged himself with, and I simply tied the knot using the bank's own policies. I did not destroy Derek Palmer. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own recklessness. Sometimes the best revenge is not breaking the rules. Sometimes the best revenge is following them perfectly and watching your enemies destroy themselves. I am done with that chapter of my life. I am finally the professional I always knew I could be. My patience paid off.